I just ended up rambling anyway. Kind of attempted to re-record that second half so many times, and it hasn't happened. I just keep on getting cut off. So we'll try again this time. Because I really don't want to upload, like, yet another afterwards. I can't even edit these things together. Like, I don't even have the clips for it right now. I mean, the software, I'm so tired. I ended up, like, half asleep typing earlier. I don't even want to know what I wrote anymore. Like, it was probably TMI. It usually is whenever that happens. I almost was asleep at that point. Almost, like, but just conscious enough to know that I was conscious. And then just kept on coming back because this is too much. And this is too much. He's trying to change, like, reality, I guess, and I dealt with this so much, you know, growing up and with my ex-husband. I basically married my grandmother. That's the scary thing, isn't it? Although, to be fair, I didn't really want to. Like, I mean, yeah, I had feelings for him, but I've never been that stupid. Like, I don't have a history of just falling into bed with people because I have feelings for them or anything like that. I didn't trust him. And anyone who knows me knows it takes me longer than that just to call you a friend for real. Like, to actually trust that word even applies to you. Let alone marry somebody. But, you know, my relatives, my grandfather was the only one who even showed up. Shows you how much they care about me. My remaining relatives, I mean, my little brother, he promised to make it, and then he got drunk and missed it. Mom had to have been rolling in her grave. My little brother promised that he'd be the one to hand me over, walk me down the aisle, and he was a dick. He's never even apologized for it. He doesn't even want to face it. That's what kind of relatives I have left. That's, like, the best of them. My aunt, my uncle, who I look way too much like for my liking, especially with glasses and whenever my thyroid is swollen. I've been told so many times I look like my mom, and then I know that, like, if my face is, like, a certain way, that I look like my dad. But that's because I don't remember a lot of his features. I just sort of remember that he had blonde hair. And what I do remember, I was so young, it kind of requires a picture to even, like, solidify, like, and reconcile because I was so young. It's hard to explain, but, like, the memory is there and I can verify that that's what it is. But, like, I was too young for that to be okay on its own. So The only one who's even tried to mend any bridges or even built any in the first place is my grandfather. With my brother, I'm expected to be the one to do everything. With my sister, I'm expected to be the one to do everything. In her case, though, I own some of that. But also, I don't own as much of it as she thinks I do. It's not her fault either. She owns, to be fair, none of it. Except for the fact that she's kind of being prissy now. And kind of only talks to me because she wants stuff. And that's what it ends up feeling like. And then that's what it ends up as. So, yeah. I don't really like being used. I was used enough growing up. And I want a relationship with my sister and with my brother. But we don't all get what we want. I don't want a relationship where it's because you can make cool stuff, I'll talk to you as long as you're sending it to me. I do those things because I care, and sometimes words aren't and after Mom died, I didn't really get my grandfather isn't really a huggy person. He's sort of the sort of person that you ask before you hug him. I mean, and there was a point I just kind of gave up even on that. Because he would just tell me no. He wouldn't hug me back. So I would just ask. And he would say, not right now, and just walk away. Just always. So I wasn't really getting hugs from him. To be fair with him, he was grieving Mom. But her mom wasn't. Her mom was the opposite. And holy shit, that family has issues. Like, this is the family that gives families issues. My grandmother was like the source of all evil. You know, like in Charmed, that old TV show where they have that source of all evil. My grandmother, I literally wrote a comic as a teenager, and she was the big bad who destroyed everything, and just the character said some things that she'd said and did some things that she did, but did it in like a magical girl sort of format. And like, except that this wasn't a magical girl, this was a very beautiful woman who could also like transform and have like Medusa hair. Okay, not actual Medusa, but like the one that you get more from Hercules, because as a kid I hadn't known that Medusa, lore and actual Greek mythology, which actually does not paint Medusa as being like that originally. Like, she actually wasn't even a snake person. So anyway, yeah. But apparently something that looks like a succubus isn't as scary. It's just kind of sexy. So, anyway. Yeah, she was a tentacle monster. She was, a character who, in most of the frames that she was in, was drawn literally just destroying everything. And entrapping the characters. And isolating the main character. And there's actually a lot more that I could analyze now because I understand more what maybe I wasn't old enough to understand then. So I can even go back and I can analyze the crap out of this and be like, wow, I was so fucked up by this. But at least I was processing. Except I had to do it in such a way that she could not openly accuse me of it. I could not even come out and say, my own home. That wasn't my home. There was actually a point whenever I said that. I said to my grandmother, I'm homeless already, so just let me go. And she said, you live here. And I said, I live here, but I don't live here. And she just didn't understand. I didn't want to go back to the system. It was just all bad. Everywhere was just bad. There was I got to the point where I just wanted to go hide in the park and live there. I actually packed my stuff and started walking. But I was so scared whenever police cruisers started coming up that I just turned around. Because the last one had threatened me and handcuffed me to a chair, and I'd had, like, welts on my wrists, some little bit of bruising, some of it was cut a little. He wasn't gentle in even getting me to the chair, and I was quite a bit younger, and it was inappropriate, and I was just terrified of police officers. I hadn't done anything except for run away. And the level of force that was used and the things that were done, they weren't necessary. They weren't even appropriate for this situation. And he was dealing with a child who wasn't so used to it yet, who was telling him that, you know, she was hitting me and all this stuff and saying these things to me. And, you know, that was just sort of like the only time I really erupted like that, like before everything. And what ended up happening was that he handcuffed me to a chair and said that if I ever tried to run away again, he'd make sure that juvie would be worse. Well, now I know juvie wasn't actually worse. I mean, it's pretty bad, but I already dealt with all those things at home. I didn't want to go back to foster care. And I loved my grandfather, and I loved my dog. And I wasn't leaving because that was all I had left. My grandmother wasn't something I had left. She was a person who hurt me. Yes, I was attached to her, but, like, I also kind of just wanted to get away from her because she wouldn't stop hurting me. There was just no way out. And then there was, like, this time once I had one chance, and I didn't even believe that it was there. I was, like, 16, and I'd been in there since I was 8. Well, actually 7. A couple months short of 8. Like, 3 months short of 8. And, well, no, it wasn't quite 3. I don't know exactly when the fire happened. But anyway, I found out that my grandmother had been lying to me about something else, which wasn't really a surprise at that point. I'd already had, like, 3 existential crises, and this wasn't, at this point, the only thing that surprised me was the fact that somebody was telling me that there was someone out there who wanted me. and was still fighting for me. To this day, I can't get record of it. I just know from word of mouth that it existed. I've been told certain people fought for me, just my godmother. I don't know about anybody else. If there was anybody. I don't think so. It never crossed my mind that anybody wanted me. I'd just heard for 8 years that the only reason I was there is because nobody wanted me. I couldn't even fathom life before, and I was so deep, and the only thing that kept me going was that dog, Foxy. And sometimes when I contemplated not waiting for my grandmother to end it, I would remember that my little brother and sister might still need me because, and then, we were grown. Next thing you know, you're grown and they don't need you anymore. And you guys have just missed, you've all just missed everything. And you're kind of left with this mess that's been made, and nobody really knows how to fix it. And the people that are left with the mess, and then everybody who made it isn't interested in even trying to fix it. They just don't even want to admit that it's a mess, let alone that they made it. It's hard. It never gets easy. There's this question I asked someone years ago. I think it's pretty good at echo of everyone. I think it's one of those questions that everyone asks. Does it ever get any easier? And I've said the same thing so many times. It was said to me, just, no. You just get stronger to carry it. The burden never gets lighter. You just learn to carry more. I'm not just mad at our landlord for trying to trap me and Jean into holding some sort of responsibility for the things that he's just refused to do. And the damage his actions have caused. Because stuff that we did, we straight up fixed. Well, Chris did. And he knew about them, too. Where a couple times Chris made some holes in walls. It was all in his bedroom. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. And we patched those. He knew that we had done so. We were completely upfront and honest about everything. Him not so much. It's not just that. It's the fact that I had to deal with crazy making behavior already. It's part of a group of behavior whenever, instead of saying, I'm doing this, you try and do it. And you'd be surprised how many people do that. And a lot of people, they just sort of roll with it, in certain situations. They just sort of roll with it. They can't really fight it. I know Jean just sort of rolls with it to a certain extent, or at least acts like he is. I can't do that. I can't even, like, think of doing that. Because I literally spent 10 years of my life, more if you count my ex-husband. Well, my ex-husband didn't exactly say you're crazy. He just told everyone else that I was crazy. And spread rumors. And he did the same thing with all of his exes, though. For him, that wasn't any different. It was the same stories that he told about Cheryl and all the others. So, it was always the same. And sometimes it was like he forgot that he was even telling a story about a different person. He would just tell the same story. He wouldn't even remember that he just told you that same story. Said that it was about somebody else. So, he was kind of full of it. And it wasn't hard to poke holes in that. But my grandmother, there was documentation involved and all sorts of stuff. So, like, part of me doing this, I can actually go back and listen to it. And if I start doubting my memory, I can listen to the recordings. And I will know. And generally speaking, my memory is as accurate as it tested last time I tested it, which is pretty damn accurate. Turns out I have a really good recall and my memory doesn't change. Like, your memory is actually supposed to change, and mine doesn't. I don't know why. It just doesn't change. I mean, my reflection on it can change as I grow and change, but, like, the memory itself doesn't change. What I focus on can change. The things that, like, become important that maybe weren't before, those can change, like, as I realize the significance of a detail. But the memory just doesn't change. I live in a world of people where their memories change and their thoughts are almost entirely flexible. And mine aren't. Like, I guess my regular thoughts can be flexible. I can accept a lot of different things. But my memories aren't. They don't change. And it's actually taken me close to 10 years to even come to peace with that. Yeah. I spent so long being told that everything I ever remembered was wrong. It turned out it's not. Everything was just wrong. My entire existence was wrong. I wasn't allowed to have feelings, thoughts my grandmother disagreed with. Everything was ridicule. You know, my grandfather, he wasn't like that, but he didn't really stop her either. To be fair, she didn't do the worst of it in front of him. Maybe she thought he would stop her. But he never did. So let me be clear. All of that shit that happened is wrong, and nobody should ever do that to anybody. It would have been kinder if my grandmother had just pulled the trigger.
regardless of superstition. Which is why I'm still here. There were a couple times that when my grandfather was at work, she just sort of drove me off somewhere. There was another lady with us a couple times. And the intention was to kill me and leave me out there and say that I ran away. Kind of like the shark incident. Like, I had a lot of shitty things happen, but I also had, like, a weird, fortunate things happen. Like, the time that we were back east and, you know, I got caught in a riptide. Like, nobody had even, like, thought to, like, talk. The rest of my relatives just, my grandmother told them that I was sick and mental, so they didn't want anything to do with me. Like, my aunt actually acted like if I touched my baby cousin, that he would catch something, like I had leprosy. I wasn't welcome, and it was actually said directly to me that I wasn't invited over to kind of like be on the picnic blankets at the beach. So it wasn't even, it was adults that said that. And I was like 9, so I took it pretty hard. Anyway, my cousin, he just wanted to be out there, and he wanted to be out a little further. And I got really scared, because one moment my feet were touching the sand, and the next they weren't. There was a point I was underwater for a while, and I didn't even know what was up and what was down. If I hadn't been holding onto his boogie board, I would be dead. I got so far out I couldn't even see the beach anymore. It was just a horizon. And I gave up. And I kept on wondering what would happen if I just let go and sunk into the ocean. Nobody would miss me. But then I remembered my brother telling me about these nightmares that he had, where Mom, where she felt it would turn into me, it would turn into our aunt. Just everybody. And I couldn't let go. Because if there was even the slightest bit of chance that I would wash up on the beach and he would find me, I couldn't do that. And that was the only reason I didn't let go. It wasn't that I wanted to die. I just didn't really have a reason to live. I can't really say I wanted to die. I mean, yeah, there were moments, but it wasn't that I wanted to die, I just wanted it to stop. I just wanted what was happening to come to an end. And it was the only way I could see out. So sometimes I would hope that my grandmother would just finally do it and stop And then there was the time that she did. Anyway, whenever the riptide happened, I actually got pushed back. And I actually got saved by sharks. I thought that it was dolphins at first, and I'd asked if dolphins were rough, kind of rough and scaly, and I was told that they were supposed to be smooth. And then it came on the radio while we were sitting in the car that, the beach that we were just at was shut down because there were sharks close to shore. 2 of them. Really big ones you don't normally see on the beach. And that was whenever I realized I'd been pushed back to the beach by sharks, not dolphins. No dolphins. There were no dolphins even in the area. I was still dripping wet, and those sharks saved my life, and it was just, I used to wonder why. Just so that I could be dragged back home and go through more crap. I used to wonder why. I didn't know. All I knew is that something just wanted me to keep existing. At some point I even thought of that, as its self-spite, which my grandmother seemed to concur with, and said several times actually. So, yeah, my continued existence was just out of spite for her, apparently. Yeah. I didn't really have a reason to live. Everybody needs a reason to live, and kids. There were people who said to me, therapists, who knew that this was, that I didn't want to die. It wasn't like I just desired to die, but that I wasn't living either. And there was this one that said to me, you need to learn to live for yourself, because you're never going to have anybody to live for. And I was 10. And that was infinitely cruel. And the same guy was also doing multiple medical tests on me, and I just had, it was one of the ones where I had whatever diagnosis he wanted for as long as he had that trial going on. And you have to understand, these people can fuck you up more than they can help you. All I did was add to what I was being taught, is that I wasn't worth anything. Sometimes it didn't feel like I was worth hate or love, just I was less than nothing. The only thing I got out of my grandmother was hate and disdain, resentment for my very existence. And the only time I mattered was whenever she could use me to get something that she wanted. You don't grow up in that and then think, yes, this is a great idea to do to other people. I'm totally gonna go out and do this. You definitely may end up in a lot of therapy, though, which I did. There was a lot of therapy, even during the fact. So therapists were even aware of this while it was going on, and apparently they would suspect something, because I wouldn't tell my grandmother exactly, but it was pretty obvious that something was going on, and they never brought it up. Meanwhile, like, people get reported for dishes in the sink or thought crimes, and that gets a very hefty reaction. But my grandmother literally tortured me. I have scars in places